Robert's rebellion has three villains, depending on who you ask. Rhaegar Targaryen for taking Lyanna, Aerys for burning the men who came to get her back, or Lyanna herself for going willingly and saying nothing to anyone. But here's what nobody talks about. The chain of events only starts because Brandon Stark found out. And nobody asks how. Who told Brandon? What exactly did they say? And would any of this have happened if they'd kept their mouths shut? Because if no one had said a word, Lyanna Stark would have been another great lord's daughter who disappeared quietly into the south. Rhaegar would have his secret. The realm stays intact. Robert Baratheon dies an old man who never sat a throne. Someone talked. That someone started a war. And we think we know who it was. Hi everyone, this is Sheen. Welcome to Friends of the First Men. On this channel, we discuss theories related to A Song of Ice and Fire. If you're new here, welcome. The historical account of Robert's rebellion is surprisingly thin on detail for an event that toppled a dynasty. What we're told is this. Brandon Stark was riding to Riverrun for his wedding to Catelyn Tully when he learned that his sister had been taken. He changed course immediately, rode to King's Landing with a handful of companions, and stood outside the Red Keep, demanding Rhaegar come out and die. Aerys arrested him, summoned the Fathers, and burned them all. That's the account. Clean, linear, devastating. But right at the beginning, there's a sentence that should bother you. When Brandon learned? Learned from whom? Through what channel? The sources don't say. The history just assumes the information arrived and moves on. That assumption is doing a lot of work, because Brandon was not in the same place as Lyanna. He was riding south toward Riverrun. She was near Harrenhal, already gone, taken by Rhaegar with the help of Sir Arthur Dayne and Sir Oswell Went. Someone had to bridge that distance. Someone had to be in the right place with the right information and a reason to share it. To understand what likely happened, you have to place the pieces on the board. It's early 282 AC. The tourney at Harrenhal was the previous year. Rhaegar won it, crowned Lyanna Queen of Love and Beauty, and shocked the realm. Everyone who attended knows about it. It's the most talked about moment in recent memory. Now, months later, Lyanna is gone, taken near Harrenhal by two of the most recognizable knights in the Seven Kingdoms. Sir Arthur Dayne is one of the most famous swordsmen alive. Sir Oswell Went carries the name of the very family that lords over Harrenhal. These are not anonymous men. Anyone who saw them riding with a Stark girl would know exactly who they were. Brandon at this point is days from his wedding. He's heading to Riverrun, not Harrenhal. He has no reason to pass through the area where Lyanna disappeared. But someone else does. Petyr Baelish, ward of House Tully, in love with Catelyn since childhood, is at Riverrun, and he is not having a good season. He challenged Brandon Stark to a duel over Catelyn and was nearly gutted for it. He slept with the wrong Tully sister. His romantic ambitions are in ruins. He is by every measure a young man in a very bad position with very little to lose. Here's what makes Lyanna's disappearance unusual beyond the obvious. We know almost nothing about where she was or what she was doing in the weeks after the tourney. Before Rhaegar took her, she was with the Stark party, presumably, but the specifics are absent. For a nobleman's daughter, whose movements would normally be traceable through guest rights, travel records, and the gossip of a dozen houses, the silence is conspicuous. That silence is not an accident. Someone at some point made sure the details of Lyanna's movements were kept quiet. Because those details, if known, would unravel the story of an abduction entirely. A girl who traveled to meet her prince, coordinated a departure, and rode away with Kingsguard by prior arrangement. That's not a kidnapping. That's a plan. The vagueness protects the story. And the story that she was taken against her will is the one Rhaegar needed the realm to believe, at least long enough to get her safely to Dorne. Which means the information that reached Brandon was probably partial, incomplete, framed in the worst possible light. A girl gone, Kingsguard seen, Rhaegar's name already attached to hers by every tongue in the realm since Harrenhal. Anyone hearing that would draw the same conclusion Brandon drew. Brandon's party is moving south toward Riverrun. At some point, at a way station and inn on the road itself, they cross paths with Petyr Baelish. Brandon has already beaten him once. There's no love lost. The encounter is not friendly. And Littlefinger, cornered, humiliated, possibly facing another beating, talks. Maybe it's spite. Maybe it's self-preservation. Maybe some part of him genuinely thinks handing Brandon Stark a crisis will distract him long enough to let him walk away intact. He is not yet the player he becomes. He's a boy who acts on impulse and calls it cleverness after the fact. Whatever the reason, he tells Brandon what he saw or what he heard or what he's pieced together. Lyanna, Kingsguard, gone south. At this point, every lord in the realm already knows Rhaegar crowned Lyanna at Harrenhal. Brandon doesn't need to be told who to blame. He's already furious about the crowning. He connects the dots in seconds. He doesn't ride to his father. He doesn't send a raven. He turns his horse toward King's Landing and rides straight into Aerys' hands. Littlefinger did not plan any of what came next. Brandon Stark is executed. Rickard Stark is burned alive. Robert Baratheon and Eddard Stark raise their banners. The realm tears itself apart. Tens of thousands die on the Trident and beyond. A dynasty ends. And Catelyn Tully, the woman Littlefinger said everything for, marries Eddard Stark instead of Brandon. Still a great lady, still alive, still in some sense reachable. The man who nearly killed him is Ash. The political map has been completely redrawn, and Petyr Baelish is still standing. He didn't intend any of it, but he watched it happen. And what he learned, viscerally, permanently, is that a single sentence, delivered at the right moment, can move the world. He spent the rest of his life proving it. There is one more thread to pull here, and it belongs to the books not yet written. Littlefinger is currently in the Vale with Sansa Stark. He is teaching her, in his way, how the game is played. And he is, in his way, in love with her. Or at least with the idea of her. Men like Littlefinger eventually confess. Not out of guilt, but out of vanity. They want to be understood. They want someone to see the full shape of what they've done. And if there is a scene in The Winds of Winter or A Dream of Spring where Littlefinger tells Sansa the truth, that a word he spoke in a moment of spite or fear sent her grandfather and uncle to their deaths and ignited a war that would eventually consume her entire family. It would be the most Littlefinger thing he has ever done. And it would be the last thing he ever told her. That's it for this video. A special shout out to Robert at InDeepGeek, who was first to propose this theory on his channel. If you haven't, go subscribe to that channel too. Do you think Littlefinger may have played a role in Robert's rebellion? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.